prison reserved for people of high rank and important positions, where 3 queens were executed. The Tower of London. Hello, I'm Maddie. In today's video we will examine the London Tower, the symbol of violence, pain, and tragic events that have occurred for hundreds of years. The Tower of London was used as a royal palace in the early days. The Tower of London, known to have accepted its first prisoner in 1100, was a different prison. High-ranking and important people were kept in this prison. Executions and even murders could take place in the prison. For example, Henry VI, 12-year-old Edward V, and his younger brother were killed in the Tower of London. Some of the prisoners in the empty space were kept under lock and key, while others could roam around the interior of the castle. Some of the prison sentences were short, some were long. The Tower of London's notoriety for the harsh treatment of its prisoners actually dates back to the Reformation. Henry VIII, desperate to have a son to heir to the throne, broke with the Roman Catholic Church and began executing those who refused to accept him as head of the Church of England. By a rough estimate, during his 36-year reign, Henry ordered the execution of 57,000 people. This number corresponded to 2.6% of the population of England at the time. The one factor common to all his victims was their opposition to their decisions. A significant portion of those he executed were clergy. Others were nobles and ordinary citizens. Although thousands of people were imprisoned in the Tower of London, only 5 women and 2 men were executed inside the tower, having escaped the shame of public execution. The name of the place where they were executed is Tower Green. 3 of the women were queens: Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard, and Jane Grey, who was murdered after reigning for only 9 days. Tower Green is an open area to the south of the Royal Chapel. In the privacy of Tower Green, decapitation was considered a privilege of rank. Those executed would be spared the insults of the jeering crowd. Other prisoners in the tower would be publicly executed on Tower Hill, just outside the castle, or at Tyburn on the other side of the town. Most other executions, usually by decapitation, were watched by crowds. The prisoner's head was tied to a very large nail and displayed on London Bridge as an example to others. His headless body was taken to the Tower of London to be buried under a small church. A total of 1,500 dead were buried here. In the middle of the green area is a small square area paved with granite, believed to be the scaffolding area where private executions took place. Granite flooring was specially created by order of Queen Victoria. In this video, we will examine why the 3 queens were executed. Anne Boleyn, the first queen to be executed in the Tower of London, was married to Henry VIII at the end of her 3-year marriage. He was sentenced to death by Henry. He was beheaded in 1536 on Tower Green, within the boundaries of the Tower of London. Among the accusations against Anne Boleyn, she was tried on charges of adultery, incest, plotting a conspiracy against the king, witchcraft, and being a witch. Some historians have concluded that these accusations were an orchestrated plan by King Henry to deprive Anne Boleyn of her status as a wife on the grounds that she could not produce a male heir, so that he could marry his 3rd wife, Jane Seymour. In addition, the fact that Anne set certain conditions for marrying the king, and despite this, the king fell head over heels in love with her, causes Henry to be thought to be fascinated by Anne. 2 consecutive miscarriages during her marriage to Henry reinforced the idea that Anne Boleyn was a witch. According to aggressive historians, the large mole on her neck and the claim that she had 6 fingers on one hand were enough to accuse Anne Boleyn of witchcraft, according to contemporary depictions. Anne Boleyn was executed in the Tower of London in May 1536, leaving behind a little daughter who would later become the Queen of England. It is said that the ghost of Anne Boleyn has been seen wandering around the Tower of London many times with her severed head. Moreover, Anne's ghost is said to appear at Hever Castle, her childhood hometown, every Christmas. Liam Archer, who recently visited Anne Boleyn's former home, took a photo of an ornate fireplace in the castle. However, when he looked at the photo at home, he saw that there was a hand pointing at the fireplace. The young man claims that this hand belongs to Anne Boleyn's soul. Another queen executed in the Tower of London was Catherine Howard, the fifth wife of Henry VIII. Catherine was also Anne Boleyn's cousin. Catherine was sexually abused by her music teacher during her teenage years. She was also sexually abused by her grandmother's secretary, Frances Dereham, and by Thomas Culpeper, one of Henry's courtiers. In short, Catherine was not a virgin when she married Henry. It is believed that she continued her relationship with Culpeper throughout her marriage. When Thomas Cranmer, Archbishop of Canterbury, spoke to Henry about his wife's past in October 1541, the king began investigating his wife's past, and the following month, on 13 February 1542, she was stripped of her title and beheaded in the Tower of London. The abusers Culpeper and Dereham did not live happily ever after. They were executed for treason a few months before Catherine's death. Another queen executed in the Tower of London was Jane Grey, known as the 9 Days Queen. Jane Grey was the one who planned to marry Henry VIII's son, Edward VI. According to the law, after Edward's death, Mary I, nicknamed Jane Grey or Bloody Mary, would ascend to the throne. King Edward wanted Jane Grey, a devout Protestant, to ascend to the throne because she defended Protestantism like her father, because he knew that if her sister Mary, who was a Catholic, ascended to the throne, she would bind England to the Catholic sect. After Edward's death, Lady Jane Grey ascended the throne. However, Mary set out for East Anglia, where she raised an army to defend her right to the throne. So the Privy Council of England decided to support Mary instead of Jane, and Mary was crowned queen. After Lady Jane Grey was deposed as queen, she and some of her supporters were tried for treason. For refusing to renounce her Protestant faith, Lady Jane Grey was executed on 12 February 1554. He was 16 years old when he died. During Queen Mary's rule, many Protestants began to regard Lady Jane Grey as a martyr. Since then, Lady Jane Grey has been portrayed as a major figure in many romantic writings, poems, stories, operas, paintings, and films.